Hallelujah. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. This is your brother Kazakya from Malachi Ministries. This particular presentation was inspired by after me viewing a renowned Israelite teacher amongst the brotherhood. I won't mention the brother's name, but there was a debate with a Christian theologian. And the title of this sharing or lesson is The Church Fathers. Is the letters of the Church Fathers inspired or demonic? Okay. Now, many of you are saying, brother, okay, you're an Israelite. You don't use the terminology church and all of that. But okay, for this particular lesson, right, I want to keep it simplistic, and I want to speak in the language of the people. Okay, so when we use the word church, we're talking about what they consider to be those who laid the foundation after the death of the Mashiach, the Messiah, Yeshua, the Messiah, who the world incorrectly calls Jesus Christ. Okay, now that's a whole nother lesson in itself. I don't want to go off into that particular subject, but just want you to understand that the world incorrectly calls the Messiah Jesus Christ. Okay. Now, so let's get on to this particular subject. So now, like I was saying, I was inspired to do this lesson because after watching the debate, I kind of felt like that many Israelites don't have a knowledge of things that come from the Christian arena. I was ordained in the church, so a lot of this stuff I studied. A lot of this stuff I have books about church history and all of that, right? So I want to get down to the nitty gritty, right? So now, this particular theologian presented some information about things like the Didache, the church fathers, and he asked the brother, have you heard of the Didache? Have you heard of the church fathers? What did the church fathers in the first century, the second century, and so forth and so on, what did they believe? So what I want to do is I want to first, before we begin, I want to lay a foundation, just to name a few of those church fathers. There are other books that are supposedly have been inspired by these disciples of the disciples. Okay. Now, so just to kind of name, we all are familiar with the 12 disciples. Now, all of the 12, right, didn't have, or their letters that they wrote, many of them never really resurfaced. But some of those letters resurfaced, right? So we have in this King James Version, I want to just share something quickly. I have the 1611 King James Version, right? All right. And this is an actual copy of the 1611 King James Version. This is not the original, but this is a republished version of it. OK, now at the time of King James, when he was alive, there were more than 66 books that we have today. Now, what we have today is we have this particular version here, which is the King James Version after 1611. Okay. It only has 66 books. This King James 1611 had other books, such as the Book of Maccabees, who many of the so-called people who support the letters of the church fathers, they called the Book of Maccabees an uninspired book. So we're going to look and see whose book is inspired, whose book is not inspired, right? Whose letters are inspired and whose letters are not inspired, according to what the word of the Most High came down through the prophets and carried on throughout the apostles who had followers. Okay. So now, just to name the few of the disciples of the Messiah, Yeshua, Shimon Kepha, who the world incorrectly calls Peter, right? We have Yachanan, whose name means Yah has favored. His name was changed to John, okay? All of the apostles' names, the 12 tribes of Israel names were Hellenized. Those were not the names they were known by when they were on the face of the earth 2,000 years ago. Okay. So we have Yochanan, we have Shimon, Kepha. And then we have, I said Yochanan, we have, I'm going to save this one for last, okay? We have a Mark, right? And then we have Shaul, okay? So all the other brothers, one particular that's not listed as having followers was Yaakov, whose name was changed to James in the King James version, right? I wonder why. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. But his name was changed to James, okay? He's not listed, right? So now, just for the sake of it, right? Let's just do this here. I want to do, let's just kind of read. Let's go to Matthew chapter 10, just to kind of get started. I'm kind of trying to get my feet wet as we get started. But I just wanted to mention those disciples, okay? Now, there were 12 disciples, one of which betrayed the Messiah. So if we go to Matthew, Matith Yahu, okay? And chapter 10, we're going to read these 10 disciples, or the 10 apostles, or excuse me, pardon me, the 12 apostles, right? Okay. So I'm looking at the book of Acts and it's throwing me off. So let's go to Matith Yahu chapter 10, as I said, and verse 2. And let's start at verse 1. And when he called unto him his 12 disciples, 12, right? He gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. So the Messiah called 12 disciples, right? The 12 is significant of the 12 tribes of Israel, the nation of Israel. So everything that comes as a result of the original people who are the original church. Let me just say this because, see, we can't have a starting church in Rome. We can't have a church starting at the day of Pentecost because the church already began, right? So let me just go with the Ruach with this one here. My goodness. Okay, I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to go with it, right? Let's go to Acts, right? Very quickly, let's go to Acts. And we're going to read to you when, just briefly, now I'm not going to stay there too long. We're going to read very, very briefly. We're going to go in there in the book of Acts, and we're going to read who the church is, okay? So we don't get a misunderstanding that the church is something separate from the people of Israel, okay? Acts chapter 7, right? Acts chapter 7 and let's start verse 35, okay? And Moshe, who the world calls Moses, but Moshe, that's his name he was known by. Moshe, whom they refused, saying, who made thee a ruler and a judge? The same did Yah, or Elohim, or Yah, send to be the ruler and a deliverer by the hand of the Malachim, or the angel, which appeared to him in a bush. 36. He brought them out after that he had showed wonders and signs in the lands of Mizraim. King James translated that name to Egypt. In the Red Sea and in the wilderness 40 years. 37. This is that Moshe which said unto the children of Israel. Now underline your scriptures. The children of Israel. He said to the children of Israel, a prophet shall Yah your Elohim, or Yahweh your Elohim, because King James has the Tetragrammaton. The proper name of the Messiah is Yahweh. Yah meaning the breath. Wah meaning the giver of breath, right? Yahweh. The Most High had the first man, Adam, Ad, which means perpetual, people. That was what he was called to be originally, Adam, and a perpetual people, a perpetual person, right? He named his wife Kawa, which means Kaha, the Wah, giver of life. That's what her name means in the ancient tongue of Hebrew, okay? The giver of life, Hawa, right? The giver of life, or the giver of breath, right? So when you give life, you breathe. It's like mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You breathe into the nostrils the breath of life. You give them life. Okay. Now, enough said with that. So the Most High, it said that, where was I at? Let's start at verse 36. He brought them out. Let me go back again. Okay. He brought them out after he had showed wonders and signs in the land of Mizraim and in the Red Sea and in the wilderness 40 years. Verse 37 again. This is that Moshe which said unto the children of Israel. Now, once again, I told you, underline the children of Israel, because this is what the Most High said to the children of Israel. Not he said it to the church, said to the children of Israel. Watch what he said now. A prophet shall Yahweh your Elohim raise up unto you of your brethren, right? Like unto me, him shall you hear, right? All right. Now, this is he that was in the King James has church. Okay. The word there is ecclesia, I believe, in the Greek. But in the original, in the Hebrew, is the word mikra, which simply means a called out public meeting. Right. So the Most High did what? He called the nation of Israel out of Egypt and called them what? The ecclesia in Greek, or the church in English, which is the Hebrew word Exodus, or I should say the Hebrew word mikra, which was later translated as an exodus, or to exit out of the land of Egypt or Mizraim. Okay. Now, so this is he that was in the church in the wilderness with the angel which spoke to him in Mount Sinai. See that? And with our fathers who received the lively oracles to give unto us. So the church, brothers and sisters, did not start in Rome. The church did not start on the day of Pentecost. The church did not start after the Messiah died and resurrected, but the church started in the wilderness. So if we are going to have fathers, right, that have letters that are inspired by the Most High Yah, then those letters have to come from the original church. Okay? Are you following what I'm saying? So we got a whole nother spirit that came on the scene, right? When the disciples came, the disciples had a belief system that was totally different, right, from what we have today in modern Christendom. Now I know you're ready to fall out your chair. Now you say, oh, brother, that's blasphemy. It's truth, brothers and sisters. We're going to show you how we know. But before we do that, I just wanted to lay that foundation. Now, having laid the foundation as far as to who the church is, incidentally, this will be part 2. I started out a part 2 about who changed the law and when and why. Okay. Now, this is part 2. For some reason or another, that part 2 got lost somewhere in the translation. So I'm going to bring it out like this, right? So who changed the law and when, part 2, are the letters of the church fathers, quote unquote, inspired or demonic. Okay. Now, so having said that, having laid the foundation of who the real church is, opposed to who this, what's a good word I'm looking for? Imitation church, I should say, the imposter church is, we're going to deal with some things, right? So now, once again, as I said, having been ordained in the grand old church of God in Christ and have studied the doctrines of the church, we're going to show you that these letters that was given to the modern today church were not inspired. They were demonically influenced. Okay, I'm going to show you now. So according to history, Peter, Paul, John, were inspirational to a follower or a convert by the name of Clement of Rome. Okay, so then we have, this is during 100 AD or 2nd century, and so we have, or I should say the 100, whatever, 1st century, 2nd century, whatever, 100, approximately 100 AD, right? Okay. We had John Yachanan, who was instrumental, according to the historical records, of discipling Polycarp of Smyrna, right? And then Ignatius of Antioch, right? And then we have from that particular line of Polycarp, this is just to name a few, there are others, but I'm just going to kind of just lay a foundation. I'm going to read from a couple of those fathers' letters, and we're going to see if those letters are inspired or if those letters are actually demonically influenced. Okay. Justin Martyr and Irenaeus, spelled Irenaeus, right? Now, then we have, under the umbrella of Mark and Shaul, who the world calls Paul incorrectly, we have Matthias and Pantanius. Now, I may not have pronounced the names properly, but Pantanus, I should say, and Matthias, or some say Matthias, or whatever. Okay, and then you have in that same line with Pantanus, you have the Clement of Alexandria, right? We had the Clement of Rome, which was first in the first 100 AD. Then we have the Clement of Alexandria, which was in 200 AD, right? Okay, and then from Clement of Alexander, we have Origen and Gregory, right? Now, and then under the same umbrella, or the same time period, I should say, we have Tertullian and Cyprian. Okay, and there are others. There are others that are not listed here, but just wanted to name a few so you can understand. So when you come in contact with a theologian who starts talking about the church fathers, you will understand who he's talking about, the fathers of the Church of Rome, because they very much embrace Rome and their authority, because Rome are the ones who enforce the law. Okay, now we're going to show you before the Romans, right? Okay, I've already did part 1, and you can look at the video called "Who Changed the Law and When" as part 1. And we actually covered out of the book of, and I don't have my book with me, but the Pseudepigrapha, which basically tells you, I take that back, not the Pseudepigrapha. Actually, it's in the 1611, the Book of Maccabees. Where in the Book of Maccabees, I'm not going to read it because I've already read it in the other chapter, but the Book of Maccabees tells you how that Philip of Macedonia had a son by the name of Alexander, right? The Greek, right? Alexander the Greek, after he died, his kingdom was divided, right? And so the people that dominated the world power at the time, the Greeks, passed laws, which is a fulfillment of Daniel, which said that that this beast would come, right? And that they would change laws and times and all of that at the end. So times have been changed, laws have been changed, right? So now when the Greeks came into power, the Greeks took all the laws. They forbid the Israelites to circumcise their children. They forbid the Israelites to keep the Sabbath day and to live a dietary law, or a sanctified diet, as my brother says. They forbid them, and if they caught them doing that, the penalty was death, right? Now, the reciprocal of that was the Most High's law said, okay, if you eat these things, you die, right? But they're saying, if you abstain from these things, you're going to die. We're going to kill you, right? This is what that law of the day did. So the Greeks were law haters. The Greeks were against the laws of the Most High. They were the ones that came to enforce us breaking the law, okay? Now, that's why there's a lot of great confusion about the Brit Kadash, or what the world calls the New Testament, because much of the writing, the letters, epistles of Shaul, were written in Greek. And so it throws a whole nother monkey wrench in the game, right? So I have a whole lot I want to cover, and I haven't actually got to the basic of this particular sharing, but I'm just kind of trying to set the stage here, all right? Now, so we have all these people who came as a result of allegedly being new converts into the belief of the saints, right? So now, what I want to do is a couple of ways I can hit this thing. Pardon me, excuse me. But what I want to do is let's go at this thing from the beginning of it. We've already touched the beginning of it, and I'm going to read you a couple of things. No, let's do it this way. Let's just read a couple of quotations from these particular followers, okay? So the first one I want to deal with, who I want to deal with first, okay? Let's deal with, okay, under the umbrella of Yochanan, right? He is believed to have had a convert by the name of Ignatius, right? Ignatius of Antioch. Now, incidentally, those of you who don't have copies of these fathers' books, you can Google them, get them. You can go to the Amazon and pay money. You can go to the library and read them, or you can. There are many other sources on the internet where you can get free copies of these books. You don't have to buy those books. You can get them. As a matter of fact, on the eSword program, you can get many of those books. Those books are listed under the label of hold on a second. They're listed under the order of the nicene fathers. Nicene, I'll spell it for you. ANTE-NICENE fathers. Anti or anti Nicene fathers, right? And I guess anti is short for antiquities. I don't know, but it should be anti, okay? But that's a whole nother lesson, okay? So you can get, there are 9 different volumes in that particular eSword program. eSword, E-sword, E-SWORD.net. You can go there, you can get them, and you can read what these so-called church fathers had to say about the new religion that came on the scene called Christianity.